Thank you for coming back to another Hamza Khan show video. We've just came off a very eventful Elimination Chamber PLE. Um, I thought overall as a show it was really good. I wouldn't say it was amazing. I would say it was really good. There was lots of good moments within the show that kept you engaged. But then there was also parts of the show which were lacking, or I wish there was a bit more to it, which we'll talk about today. I think the main thing people are talking about is obviously the main event with um, the men's elimination chamber match. So of course we had Cody, Logan Paul, Javon Evans, Trick Williams, Ellen Knight, Randy Orton in the match. Um, I think a lot of people predicted and a lot of people were expecting Cody Rhodes to win, especially with the feud continuing with Drew McIntyre throughout the years from the beginning of this year all the way till now. And it looked like it was going to keep on going up until WrestleMania. Um, but that wasn't the case. Unexpected win, I think no one kind of predicted it and no one expected it. They kind of said possible, but it was very unlikely, especially with Drew McIntyre being the champion. But Randy Orton was able to win the Elimination Chamber after Drew McIntyre got involved into the match because they left the door open. The second the door was open, and we saw the door opening, I think around when Javon Evans was eliminated, it was just straight away like, yeah, we know what's gonna go on here. You know what's gonna happen. Someone's coming in. Obviously, it wasn't only Drew McIntyre. Someone else went in, but we'll get to that in a second. But Drew McIntyre obviously came in. He got involved. He was attacking Cody. He was trying to make sure that Cody doesn't um, get the opportunity to face him again. And Randy Orton came in, RKO'd Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre went up, fell into a crossroads uh, for Cody Rhodes. Cody and Randy looked like they were in the same page. I didn't expect it, so I thought Drew McIntyre gets taken out, and then we restart it, and now we go at it with a little preview again of Cody versus Randy Orton, kind of hinting on that potential feud. Didn't happen like that. Randy Orton executed. He did the exact same thing that Cody Rhodes did to Sami Zayn. Straight RKO, 1, 2, 3. Randy Orton's going to WrestleMania, which, how I feel about it, I think it is the right move for Randy Orton, especially with how a lot of people are wanting the Randy Orton push. I think now you sooner or later you have to kind of push Randy Orton and get him back to that echelons which he deserves to be and he needs to be. Um, and it was the right move in the end rather than it being Cody. But of course, it isn't the end for Cody and his WrestleMania dreams because we've got the announcement on SmackDown that it's going to be Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton for the WWE Championship. I was very interested to see that was made in place by Nick Aldis because every step of the way you could say the same thing about Jacob Fatu and Jacob Fatu's kind of um, his attempts to get at Drew McIntyre and also attempts of chasing the WWE Championship. So he's had that struggle, but in this instance, Cody got the match straight away, whereas Jacob Fatu, he had to go into a elimination qualifier match after Jey Uso got taken out, and then it was um, him versus Logan Paul. Logan Paul won, and he was in the elimination chamber. So I think I 100% expect that Jacob Fatu is gonna get involved in the Drew McIntyre Cody Rhodes match on SmackDown. I don't think Cody wins on SmackDown. I think it goes to a no disqualification, and then we see a triple threat between Cody, Jacob, and Drew McIntyre on the way to WrestleMania for a hype up match, and that's where Cody Rhodes is able to win the match. We go off from that match to a feud between Jacob Fatu and Drew McIntyre, and then you continue with Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton. I think this is the match that I feel bad for Drew McIntyre because he has been a really, really good champion and he's been pushing the brand and he's making everything interesting. His conversations with Sami Zayn, his interactions with people, he's pushing the buttons, his total opposite kind of behavior of a Cody Rhodes champion is really, really good and really enjoyable. But I think what they think is if you want a main event competing against the now CM Punk and Roman Reigns confirmed match at WrestleMania, you need something to kind of level that. And a rematch between Drew McIntyre and Cody Rhodes, I don't think in their eyes had the legs for it. I think it did. And if it was going to be Cody Rhodes versus Drew McIntyre, 7 weeks of just back and forth, I think you can build such a compelling story that's better than the Roman Reigns and CM Punk feud. Um, but that is what I kind of expect going forwards. It was definitely unexpected, and I enjoyed the fact that it happened. It got me hyped. It wasn't the same old kind of Cody wins. It's gonna be a struggle for Cody Rhodes even more in a different kind of way than we've kind of seen previously for Cody to get to the point where he is in the main event of WrestleMania. Other highlights to the match, obviously, we've got the fact that Seth Rollins returned. We had the kind of the non-mask man, the kind of the bum, come out on SmackDown previously in the match between Logan and Jacob. He got caught straight away. Same thing happened this week. Not this week, at the Elimination Chamber. We had some random guy in a mask come out, and then Seth Rollins sneaked in after all the security guards and everything had gone to the back. So he sneaks in, hits Logan Paul, who was dominating the second half of the Elimination Chamber. I think the momentum was on um, Logan Paul, and Stomp, Cody Rhodes takes the pin, and Paul Heyman goes crazy. So it's very interesting to see that Seth Rollins is where I didn't expect Seth Rollins to return so early. I think especially with the fact that Bronson Reed and Bron Breakker were out with injury, I expected for them to not bring Seth Rollins back until after the vision had been built. Because in my perspective of the vision and the feud between Seth Rollins, no matter the level between the betrayal between Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman, it was more so my perspective was that the betrayal was between Seth Rollins and Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed. And Paul Heyman just had to make a decision where he was going to decide, do I stay with Seth Rollins or do I stay with Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed, who will listen to me, compared to Seth Rollins, who has his own ideas, he has his own plans, he's the architect. Does he necessarily need a Paul Heyman? So that's kind of how I saw it in my perspective of it. So I don't know how they're gonna kind of build the matchup between Seth Rollins and Logan Paul, because I think a lot of people have kind of predicted maybe it's going to be a tag team match with Visions, Logan Paul and Austin Theory versus Seth Rollins and I've heard Bad Bunny be a part of that match. Um, I don't know how much I like that, and then also I don't know how much I love Logan Paul versus Seth Rollins, because it is a match that we've seen before. It is a feud that we have seen before, and I don't see how Seth Rollins can have the hatred towards Logan Paul to the point where it all kind of comes together, um, especially with Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed out. Um, it is going to be a difficult thing to kind of build, especially you can't really plan for injuries with Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed. So I think even if Bronson Reed was still in there, it still wouldn't hit the same. What could be very interesting to see is if instead of it being Seth Rollins versus Logan Paul, could we potentially see Seth Rollins versus Brock Lesnar? And Brock Lesnar's mystery opponent at WrestleMania is going to be Seth Rollins, which, if you're going to build something and it's going to be hyped up enough, Brock Lesnar versus Seth Rollins makes doesn't necessarily. I don't know if it makes sense, and I think it has more of a build. And I think the feud between or the interactions between Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins, the kind of back and forth, will be more interesting than Logan Paul being there and Austin Theory there at their current level. If I'm just seeing it from what we've seen so far, but it'll be interesting to see what goes on. Overall, as a match, I think the men's elimination chamber needed to be longer. It wasn't long enough. We didn't get to see the kind of highlights that a lot of people wanted from Trick Williams, um, Javon Evans, especially with it being their first ever elimination chamber match. I feel like they needed to kind of highlight them more in this match. LA Knight didn't get a good showing, in my opinion, and it was kind of lackluster for LA Knight, especially when he came back from the injury at the Royal Rumble. You kind of expected that they would push him, the momentum with him, especially with how the crowd reacts to him every single time, no matter what he says, no matter what he does. LA Knight gets the reaction you expect. You get the cheers. You see the signs. You want the push for LA Knight. People want the push from LA Knight. So it was a bit lackluster for everybody else in the match. I think that kind of came from the fact that it was a shorter match and it didn't have enough time, in my opinion, especially with all the kind of tomfoolery at the end of the show. Off that, you had the person in the crate, disappointing. This Dan Heisem guy. I should have expected it, especially with when every time they showed the kind of the crate, it was in a joking reference. It was never a issue. It was always, if it was such a serious thing, if it was, for example, Chris Jericho, it would have been highlighted in more of a important way compared to showing up in ads with the or truth bit, having someone lying Johnny Gargano lying down on the crate, it going back and forth. Thus disappointing is because of the expectations. It'll be interesting to see this Dan Heisem guy, if he's going to be as good as people kind of portray him to be. So it'll be interesting there. But so far, it was kind of that was disappointing, and I don't feel like it should have been on the elimination chamber match. I feel like you it would have made more of an impact on a SmackDown at the end of the show. That's where he comes out. Everybody's like, what's going on here? Some people cheer, some people kind of confused. And then you go home, you kind of research it, you think, oh, who the hell was that guy? What the hell's happening? And then you're kind of going forwards compared to it just being a added thing for people to not necessarily be happy about on the show. It was just extra. Uh, Off that, you had the two matches in between. You had CM Punk versus Finn Balor. I don't think it was as good as the first match that they had, but it made sense with what's the direction I think they are going with Finn Balor, with him finally leaving the Judgment Day. Um, will it be for the Intercontinental Championship, which is what a lot of people are expecting? I think if you are gonna double down on the importance of Finn Balor, it needs his next moves out of the Judgment Day need to be important. It can't be another kind of he goes out and then he does nothing. There needs to be steps in place where we build the importance. He doesn't need to be in the main event, or he doesn't need to be competing for the WWE Championship every week, but he needs to have that kind of aura to himself that he used to have that kind of pushes him to where you see Finn Balor, you can't wait to be excited to see him, and he's pushed in that way with the opponents that he faces. So interested to see what they go on from there. Obviously, now that is kind of confirmed, it was confirmed before. It's going to be CM Punk versus Roman Reigns. We'll see what happens on SmackDown, how they develop that. You had the other match, which was AJ Lee versus Becky Lynch, which was, I guess I understand why they did it because it was Chicago and you wanted the moment at the end where you had CM Punk and AJ Lee with the championships together. Nice moment. Made sense why they did it. I just prefer Becky Lynch as a champion. She's so much better as a champion than most people in the roster. She brings relevancy to it, and she's really really good. So I was sad to see that Becky Lynch lost, but I guess it made sense. And then you had the women's elimination chamber match, which was as a match, obviously without the spectacle of it, I think it was way better than the men's match. It had so much more time to that match. Raquel Rodriguez looked sick in that match. You heard the boos when she was pinned. It was you definitely see a real push for Raquel going forwards, and I do definitely want to see that. Um, who else looked good? Kiana James looked good. You had the spots between the first spot that went through the elimination chamber in the pods. That was insane. You had at the end of the match Rhea versus Tiffany Stratton. I think once it got to that point, especially with how they are building between uh, Tiffany and Chelsea Green on SmackDown, it made sense that Rhea was gonna win, and especially with the fact that she lost the championship the night before the tag team championship with Io. So made sense, and I think that match is gonna be a real insane kind of build and kind of perspective. Rhea Ripley needs to be back on SmackDown to just bolster it and just make it even more hyped up. And you can have Last Legend and Nine Jack kind of in between SmackDown and Raw, but Rhea Ripley being back on SmackDown, facing um, what's her name again? The Storm, Jade Cargill. That's going to be a really big match. Hopefully, it is pushed in a way where it's very physical. It's very kind of you're getting pushed through the chairs. You're using the outside ring, the table, those sorts of things. Hopefully, that is what happens in that match. But made sense that Rhea would win, and I like the fact that Rhea won. Overall, I thought, as I said at the beginning, very good show, but wasn't amazing, wasn't the best show I've ever seen. It wasn't a um trying to remember what was the show that I really enjoyed. I think it was the previous Saturday night's main event. That Saturday night's main event before Royal Rumble was really, really good and really, really enjoyable. Um, so that was the highlight for me. You had on SmackDown, you had the crusher of Sami Zayn and his continuing kind of collapse of his self, his how he presents himself, what he is meant to do and how he's meant to act, especially with the fact that he confronts Jacob Fatu after Jey Uso was attacked and then apologizes, the same thing he did with Cody. It's going to be very interesting to see that interaction between Cody Rhodes and Sami Zayn on SmackDown, where I expect Sami Zayn to kind of have a smile on his face where he looks at Cody Rhodes and he says, "Doesn't feel good, does it?" That's going to be very interesting. I'm really enjoying. I'm really interested in this Sami Zayn saga. It could be very, very good. I low key want Sami Zayn to be the person that took out Jacob Fatu and took out um, Jey Uso, because that could be a kind of leveling up and that opportunity for Sami Zayn to finally get the World Heavyweight Championship if he's able to overcome in a feud Jacob Fatu and Jey Uso, former champion. The bloodline, you could maybe even chuck Roman into the mix and you could pull that back again. We could, you're working towards, after WrestleMania, you've got obviously King of the Ring. A King of the Ring between Roman Reigns versus Sami Zayn could really, really good if it is the case. I've not really decided on who's gonna win between Roman Reigns and CM Punk at this moment. I think my thought process is CM Punk beats Roman Reigns, and that just kind of establishes this title reign for CM Punk even more, and it kind of pushes Roman Reigns back. But I don't know where you go with Roman Reigns if he does lose at WrestleMania, because he ain't wrestling as much as CM Punk. So him kind of losing may take a lot out of Roman Reigns, and if it comes with the fact that if Roman Reigns loses, it builds him towards sort of um, being on the show more often, I could be very backing of that. Um, but that's going to be the end of the video. Thank you again for watching. Leave a like if it was good, leave a dislike if it was bad, and remember, no comments. Peace.